Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for joining us. Could be listening on the FM AM dial on KSHP. We're everywhere. Of course, the Occupy Democrats Network, as well as other networks new to the show that I'll be talking about a little bit later on. We appreciate you all joining us, and I ask that you subscribe. It's only a cup of coffee, $5 a month on the Occupy Democrats Network. You could also subscribe to my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show, where we do overtime after every live show every single day. We have a big show lined up for you today. We have a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. Obviously, Hunter Biden is under oath today, and the Republicans are embarrassing themselves again. I guess they love the embarrassment. I don't know. We'll be talking a little bit about that. Oh, my God, he took this job at Burisma, but let's not talk about, all the other doings in the Trump administration, like Jared Kushner receiving $2.1 billion from the Saudis. No, we're not going to talk about that, who actually worked in Donald Trump's administration. Going to get to some Dr. Phil here in a moment. We'll be talking as well. Ashley Babbitt's mom back in the news. Of course, if you don't know who Ashley Babbitt is, she is the domestic terrorist who was shot and killed on January 6th, and a lot of people on the far right are making her out to be some sort of martyr or hero. We'll be talking more about that a little bit later on in the program as well. I want to start with Dr. Phil. If you don't know who Dr. Phil is, he's a television personality. I don't really enjoy watching his show, but he's an author, and he hosts, the talk show Dr. Phil. He holds a doctorate in clinical psychology. He made an appearance on The View, and he started talking about the vaccines, and he started to talk about COVID lockdowns and how schools were shut down. Now, for those of you that don't know, COVID is very near and dear to my heart. First of all, I know personally several people that have died of COVID, one of whom I went to high school with was a young 42-year-old man with 2 kids who lost his life, and he was in good physical condition. And I was in the ICU for 2 weeks with COVID. This is before the vaccines were out. And I almost lost my life. COVID is very personal to me. And when I hear people spread medical misinformation, in this case, COVID misinformation, I get very frustrated, I get very angry, and it is a trigger for me. Dr. Phil made an appearance on The View. And in that appearance, the main reason why he was there is he's promoting his book. And let me be very clear with you. If I ever got my hands on Dr. Phil's book, I would use it as toilet paper, because that's what I think about Dr. Phil, and that's what I think about his book. That might actually hurt. That might not be a good idea. I'd prefer toilet paper. But anyway, you get the point I'm trying to make. So that conversation turned into school shutdowns. I want to be very clear on this. Dr. Phil is not an infectious disease expert. He's not a vaccine expert. In fact, he's not even a psychologist anymore. He didn't renew his license since 2006. But here is Dr. Phil on The View talking like he's an infectious disease expert and talking about how our children suffered because of the school closures. Have a listen to this.
And the same agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that? Who takes away the support system for these children? Who takes them away and shuts it down? And by the way, when they shut it down, they stopped the mandated reporters from being able to see children that were being abused and sexually molested, and in fact sent them home and abandoned them to their abusers with no way to watch, and referrals dropped 50 to 60%. So
there was also a pandemic going on. They were trying to save
kids' lives. Remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't, people weren't laying around eating bond, but, well, you know what? We're lucky.
Dr. Phil is wrong. I'll explain why. Number 2, Dr. Phil is not a medical doctor. He hasn't renewed his license as a psychologist since 2006. So for people out there that say he's a medical doctor, he is not, and he is not practicing, and he doesn't have a license. He is a reality TV talk show host, no better than the late, great Jerry Springer, who I actually did have respect for and always will. Dr. Phil is wrong. Now, The people on The View, some of them, are not the best when it comes to debating, whether it be Whoopi Goldberg or others. Let me be very clear on why Dr. Phil is a complete moron and he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. You don't have to be a doctor to know what I am about to say if you are a logical human being. Dr. Phil, like many people on the far right that don't have any real medical licenses, make the claim that the schools should have never been shut down and our children suffer. But what these morons don't take into account, because they're idiots, is that even though kids, for the most part, were safe when it came to COVID, there are still some kids that died of COVID, by the way, so Dr. Phil is factually inaccurate. But even though kids were less likely, the lowest chance of going to the hospital or dying from COVID, here's what they were able to do if they were in school. They could contract the virus, go home, and then give it to either family members like parents, and some of these kids lived with their grandparents, who were the most vulnerable. But because of the school closures, the kids were less likely to get COVID and give it to their family members. Now, you don't have to have an IQ over 20 to understand what I am saying, because Dr. Phil doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's ignorant to the actual facts of the virus that killed over 1 million people in this country. And
Really?
And I'm tired of people that have no real infectious disease knowledge. They don't have medical degrees in that profession, acting like they do. Let me be clear again, Dr. Phil, and for all these far righties out there that have absolutely no idea what they are talking about. Kids get the virus, and while, thank God, the overwhelming majority of them are okay, they can pass it along to other people. That was one of the main reasons why the schools were closed. It wasn't just necessarily for the health and well-being of the children, it was for their families. Why is that so hard for somebody like Dr. Phil to understand? This isn't opinion, this is fact. Many of these kids didn't just live with young parents. Some of them lived with grandparents. They contract the virus. Some of them don't even know they have the virus. They give it to family members and those that are most vulnerable. Dr. Phil is an idiot, and he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. And I wish somebody on The View would have challenged him on that and said, Dr. Phil, what is your expertise in the virus? What is your expertise in infectious disease? Have you ever treated somebody with COVID? But you see, that's what people on the right do. Listen, I am not going to sit here and say that we did everything right as a country. The world wasn't prepared for a global pandemic. There is no question that mistakes were made, and there is no question that there were times where people overdid it. We're a little bit too careful. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. But these schools that were closed down, those kids will still get an education. Those kids will still go through that grade, and those kids will be just fine. What I can tell you is because of those school closures, lives were saved. And it wasn't like a governor, Republican or Democrat, woke up one morning and said, geez, I know how I can stay in power. I'm just going to shut my entire state down. People will love me for that. No, that's idiotic. They listened to medical experts, actually those in the field of infectious disease, not idiots like Dr. Phil, who hasn't practiced any bit of medicine since 2006. And now he's selling a book, so he's trying to be controversial. I wouldn't buy his book. In fact, you couldn't pay me to read that stupid book. Dr. Phil is a moron. And the fact, yeah, really. Dr. Phil is a moron. And he goes on The View to try to say controversial things so that he can sell his book. Like I said, if I ever get my hands on it, I would use it as toilet paper. Because that's what I think about Dr. Phil, and that's what I think about his, stupid book and the idiotic things that he says.
You get help, you narcissistic bitch.
Yeah, that's Dr. Phil for you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's Dr. Phil. He is a conspiracy theorist, and when it comes to COVID and vaccinations and infectious disease, the guy has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that some of you don't like truth. The fact of the matter is that a lot of people died from COVID. Were the overwhelming majority of those people kids? No. But if you're living with someone who's elderly, and many of these children do, they live with grandparents, not just parents, it would be easier for them to give the virus to those people that are vulnerable if, in fact, they were going to school when we were losing 5,000 people a day. But this moron, Dr. Phil, can't put two and two together. Oh, we should have never shut down our schools. What about the kids? What about their grandparents? What about their parents? What about the over 1 million people that died of COVID? See, people like Dr. Phil don't want to talk about that, do they? But they spread their medical misinformation. And I've had it. I've had it with these people that spread their medical misinformation. I'm sick of it. And it's still happening today. The attacks on Dr. Fauci, the attack on Dr. Birx. Oh, but let's leave Donald Trump alone. The guy who talks about injecting yourself with disinfectant, who talked about, during his coronavirus, they were supposed to be coronavirus press conference, and they turned it into campaign rallies. But let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about the morons like Herman Cain, who went to one of Donald Trump's rallies where he made you sign off on something saying, hey, if you get COVID and die, you can't sue us. Herman Cain died of COVID. He was the one that was an anti-masker, and now he's dead. And I don't wish that upon anybody, but whose fault is it? And then you right-wingers out there, where was Joe Biden? He was in the bunker. No, we were in a global pandemic. You see, the responsible thing was not to be holding rallies with 5,000, 10,000 people during a global pandemic. That was the responsible thing to do. Why do you think Donald Trump's attorneys made people sign off waivers? Hey, if you get sick and if you die, you can't sue us. Oh, sure, I'll sign that. Herman Cain, dead. It's ridiculous. I'm sick of these people, that Monday morning quarterback that have no medical experience at all. Dr. Phil was a psychologist back in 2006. Rand Paul talking about the vaccines. The guy is a freaking eye doctor. Is that who you're going to get your medical information from when it comes to infectious disease? From a freaking eye doctor? Oh, well, my dentist told me masks don't work. Oh, who cares? Who cares? The guy will fix your cavity. He doesn't know anything about infectious disease, and neither does Dr. Phil. And if you don't want to listen to me, that's fine. I'm not a doctor, even though I almost died of COVID, and I can guarantee you I know a hell of a lot more about COVID than Dr. Phil does, who, by the way, is not a doctor anymore. It's ridiculous. And it pisses me off. And it continues, by the way. Because then Dr. Phil, on The View the other day, he starts talking about children that are being trafficked. By the way, this is a very serious topic, and it's awful. And I wish it wasn't the case. Whether it be in this country or anywhere in the world, it is horrible that there are children out there that are being sexually trafficked. It's terrible. But I want you to listen to what Dr. Phil says about this, because he makes these claims like he does in his book to try to sell his book, but gives actually no specific information. And he claims that our government is paying for children to be sex trafficked, which, by the way, is ridiculous. But listen to this. Listen to what he said on The View about child sex trafficking and how our government is involved.
I'll tell you a fact I took away. I talked to the head of all the border guards down there, the head of the union. I asked him straight up, kids are coming over the border with numbers written on them, phone numbers and addresses. Do we check those out? He said, well, we call them. Is it possible that we're sending them into known prostitution rings or sweatshops? He said, it's not possible. It is absolute. We are using American tax dollars to ship children into known prostitution and sweatshops.
Some children.
Well, who knows?
Okay.
We don't know.
We don't know, but I'm going to still make the claim. Do you notice how he says, I spoke to the head of the bodyguards? What the hell is he talking about? I guess he was trying to say, I spoke to the head of border security. Doesn't give a name. Really, Dr. Phil? Who did you speak to? Because you're Dr. Phil, you get that access? Who did you speak to? Oh, the head of the bodyguards I spoke to. Really? What's his name? Doesn't give a name. but is making the case and making the claim that somehow our government, the U.S. government, is paying for sex trafficking, for kids to be sex trafficked. And then when asked, oh, how many? Oh, I don't know. But it's happening because I spoke to this guy. I won't give you his name on The View, but I spoke to a guy. How does anybody give this guy, Dr. Phil, any credibility at all? He's not an infectious disease expert. He doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to infectious disease. He doesn't know what he's talking about in why the schools were closed. A lot of people that were against the school closures, they talk about the children. They never talk about the adults in the household. And what they fail to understand is while children, very rare cases, died of COVID, it wasn't just about the kids and their well-being. It was about those that were in the home that the kids have contact with every day. But you'll never hear those on the far right that spread medical misinformation talk about that, will you? There were mistakes made, no question. Dr. Phil has absolutely no idea what he was talking about. None. Zero.
Really?
Yeah, really. I mean, it's really sad. It's sad that there are still so many people out there with their conspiracy theories, and we'll get to that. Speaking of conspiracy theories, I wanted to talk about this yesterday, and that is Ashley Babbitt. Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed because of her own behavior and her own actions on January 6th. That's proven. That's not an opinion. It was investigated. Now, if you think the DOJ is against Ashley Babbitt and you don't believe our justice system, then you can go ahead and have that opinion, but I really don't care what your opinion is. The fact of the matter is that Ashley Babbitt was a conspiracy theorist, unhinged human being. She was shot and she was killed, even warned when people said, oh, he has a gun. And she tried to climb through that glass the last seconds of her life, 20 feet away from congressmen and congresswomen in the halls. She was a domestic terrorist, and sadly, because of that, she's no longer alive. Now, listen, I feel for her friends, her family members, some of them at least. No mother should ever have to bury their daughter. But can we stop with the excuses? Now, if you don't believe me and you don't think that Ashley Babbitt was a crazy human being and unhinged, I want to play you a little bit of audio. This was Ashley Babbitt just a few months before she was shot and lost her life, going on an unhinged rant. You tell me this is not somebody who is unhinged. Have a listen to this.
Control. Our drugs are out of control. When you have to have a budget to clean up human fecal matter off the roads, that is a problem, okay? This is absolutely insane. The meth problem, the fentanyl problem, the heroin problem, the illegal this is crazy, okay? Like, well, everybody wants immigration, but we need to do it the right and correct way. This is getting out of control, and you guys are lying. Why are you lying? Why are you lying? And why are you so worried about what everybody else is doing? I want to talk about what you're doing. Like I said, you can consider yourself put on notice. Me and the American people. I am so tired of this. I am woke, man. This is absolutely unbelievable. Get your together. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds like a very normal person. Ashley Babbitt was unhinged. She was radicalized like so many in this country, and she lost her life because of it, because of the actions that day. Now, if Donald Trump wasn't the president of the United States, she'd probably still be alive today because she wouldn't have been there on January 6th to begin with. If Donald Trump admitted the obvious, which is he lost the 2020 election, Ashley Babbitt probably wouldn't have been there to begin with. But Ashley Babbitt lost her life because she stormed the Capitol, trying to break through glass, even after people in the crowd said, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. 15 seconds later, that didn't deter her, and that didn't stop her. Now listen, I feel for Ashley Babbitt's family. No parent should ever have to bury their son or daughter. It's a terrible thing. It should have never happened. But the person who shot Ashley Babbitt was justified in doing so. That was proven. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. There was an investigation, and the investigation proved that he was in the right, and it was justified. You can call me a liar. There was an investigation. I speak facts. Your opinion doesn't matter. Ashley Babbitt was a domestic terrorist. It's a very sad situation. I wish it didn't happen, but she put herself in that position, and she shouldn't have been there to begin with. Period. Why am I talking about Ashley Babbitt today? Well, her mother has been making the rounds and doing interviews on social media, and her mother made an appearance at CPAC. Now, if you want to know a little bit about Ashley's mother has a police record of her own, and there's video to prove this after she assaulted a counter-protester at a right-wing event outside a Washington, D.C. jail. That's right. Her name is Mickey Withoft. She was taken into custody, surrounded by officers, after assaulting a member of Antifa. She was charged with assault and destruction of property. Ashley Babbitt appears as though she took after her mom. Her mom is making the rounds on social media. Ashley Babbitt's mom is blaming everybody else but her daughter. Here is Ashley Babbitt's mom, in her own words, in a way, defending her daughter and blaming everybody else.
We have a nightly vigil outside the D.C. jail for our 571 nights now. We stand outside. You know, our American patriots that are still being persecuted behind the events of January 6th sing the national anthem every night at 9 o'clock. We're there to sing it with them. Anybody that wants to join us, 1901 E Street. We're there every single night. You know, we need to stand up for our people that have been politically persecuted, and we need fair and just trials. It's not our position that nobody did anything wrong that day, but we want the government and the police behavior that day, police held as accountable as our American citizens are.
You notice that she doesn't talk about her daughter being accountable? Now, I know her daughter is dead. She talks about the police. And then these January 6th sympathizers, like, I just don't understand it. Many of those people that were in there, that are in jail right now, attacked police officers that day. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. There's video of it. Every single one of those people had an opportunity to get a defense attorney, which all of them had, and they had their day in court. Some of them struck plea deals. Some of them were found guilty for very serious charges, including sedition. There is no evidence that any of those people that were prosecuted on January 6th did not have a fair trial or were not treated fairly. Now, if you listen to the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world or Ashley Babbitt's mom, they'll lead you to believe that it was political prosecution when there were Republican judges, Republicans on juries. So there's absolutely zero evidence. Just like when Vivek Ramaswamy says that January 6th was an inside job, he has zero real evidence that that took place. But that is what the right wing of the party is. That's what the MAGA party is today. Ashley Babbitt was a domestic terrorist. It's a very sad situation. I don't take any joy in saying that she lost her life. I wish it didn't happen. But I wish Ashley Babbitt didn't storm the Capitol. I wish Ashley Babbitt wasn't a domestic terrorist. I wish Ashley Babbitt, wasn't there to begin with. I wish January 6th didn't happen. I wish those officers that took their own lives didn't do so. I wish that didn't happen that day. I wish those 140 officers weren't injured that day. But January 6th did happen, and people need to be held to account. Unfortunately, for Ashley Babbitt, it cost her her own life because of her actions, not the actions of Michael Byrd, who shot her. That was investigated. Now, here's Ashley Babbitt's mom, once again, basically calling Michael Byrd a murderer for shooting her daughter. Have a listen to this.
I'm happy to have Judicial Watch fighting for Ashley, and if anybody stands a chance of getting justice for Ashley, it's Judicial Watch. And I know Judicial Watch is going to go forward for Ashley. I think Michael Byrd will face justice. I wake up every day believing that and fighting for that, and it gives me confidence that Judicial Watch is there fighting for Ashley and Aaron, her widower.
No, I'm sorry, with all due respect, the person who got justice was your daughter. She was the one who was there. She was the one who was committing crimes. She was the one who was trying to break through a window to get at Mike Pence. She's the one who faced the justice. She's the one who put herself in that position. Michael Byrd was already investigated for the shooting, as any shooting would be investigated. And they deemed him to be within his right to shoot Ashley Babbitt. Sorry if you don't agree with the case. Sorry about your daughter. But she did it to herself. And this is what these people on the far right do. Ashley Babbitt's mom is very similar to a lot of people on the far right do when you could be talking about January 6th. You could be talking about Donald Trump's 91 felony counts. It really doesn't matter, right? Because here's Jack Posobiec at CPAC asking Ashley Babbitt a stupid question. Jack Posobiec is a moron, and this is his interview with Ashley Babbitt's mom, at least a portion of it. Have a listen to this.
Yes,
Mickey, the mother of Ashley Babbitt, exclusive interview. Mickey, what can we do to try to get justice for what happened to your daughter?
Well, Judicial Watch is taking that under their wing, and they're pursuing justice for Ashley Babbitt. What we need to know right now, and would be so important to Ashley, is to realize that the two-tier justice system that's coming after President Trump right now has got 1,300 American citizens hemmed up in that don't have the notoriety and the lawyer power behind them, and they sit and languish in jail.
They sit and languish in jail. You hear that term all the time by these right-wing lunatics, right? Two-tier justice system, right? Even though Jack Smith is a Republican, but they ignore facts. Two-tier justice system. Let me be clear. If Ashley Babbitt was alive today, she'd probably be in jail. Not because there's a two-tier justice system, because your daughter was a criminal, just like you're a criminal for assaulting people. It's not a two-tier justice system when you storm the Capitol, in some cases with some people, attack police officers, beat them with their own batons, spray them with pepper spray, and try to get at politicians because you don't like the outcome of a free and fair election because you're too ignorant to understand fact from fiction and you believe every word that Cheeto Jesus says. It's not our fault that you're ignorant. It's not our fault, tragically, that your daughter lost her life, that your daughter wasn't a very smart person. I'm sorry. I'm just going to speak the truth when other people won't. Ashley Babbitt, while it's very sad what happened to her, she was not a very intelligent person, and she was radicalized. The people that stormed the Capitol were not very intelligent people. They listened to every word and cling on to every word that Donald Trump, Orange Cheeto Jesus, says. They're just not very intelligent people. And sadly, in our society, not everybody is intelligent. Some people are not very bright, and they could be swayed by what somebody like a snake oil salesman like Donald Trump says. You can be swayed when people say that January 6th was an inside job with absolutely no basis and no evidence to make a claim like that. And again, I feel bad for Ashley Babbitt's family. Nobody should have to bury their own son or daughter. But this was not Michael Byrd's fault. He was doing his job. It was investigated, and it was proven in the investigation. If you don't believe the investigation and you want to believe that somehow Ashley Babbitt was murdered, then you can believe in the tooth fairy, and you can believe that the earth is flat as well. You have a right to believe that. You're just wrong. Like many of the other people that were there on January 6th, they were a bunch of domestic terrorists that didn't like the outcome of a free and fair election, and many of them that were there in the House chambers resorted to violence. I had the QAnon shaman on this show. He wasn't violent, but he still went to jail. The reason why he's not in jail now is because he didn't physically assault anybody. But that's the bottom line. And I'm sorry. And that's just the reality of the situation. And there are some people on social media. Brian, you sound so gleeful that Ashley Babbitt lost her life. Well, you're a moron because you haven't listened to the actual words that I'm saying. While I am giving you the facts of what happened, I've said over and over again, it's tragic, it's horrible, I wish it didn't happen. Ashley Babbitt is responsible for her own death. That doesn't mean I'm gleeful. It means I'm being honest, and it means I'm being factual. If somebody walked out onto the street and wanted to commit suicide and get hit by a car, and they did, and they died tragically, I wouldn't blame the driver. I would blame the person who went out on the street. They're the ones who wanted to put themselves in that situation. What Ashley Babbitt was doing was pretty much like suicide. When somebody has a gun, and it's clearly stated he has a gun, and Babbitt tries to climb on a window and get through a window to get to some of these politicians that at the time were about 15 or 20 feet away, it's like you're committing suicide. If somebody has a gun and they point it at a cop, you might as well kiss your life goodbye. It's like committing suicide. And the rest of the people that were in that crowd should feel lucky that they're not dead. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. But that is what, it's funny because people will say, I'm misinformed. Well, I open up the lines here every day. And keyboard warriors will call me a liar. And they'll say, I'm misinformed. Okay, tell me why. I'm opening up the phone lines right now. Why am I misinformed? What did I say that's not factually accurate? Number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, the number, if you would like to be a part of the show, if you think I'm the one that's misinformed, or I'm the one that's not telling the truth, or I'm the one that's spreading propaganda, which, by the way, I'm not. But if you feel that way, I'll take your phone calls now. Again, that number to call if you'd like to be a part of the program, 702-221-7283. Again, that number, 702-221-7283. It's kind of like when I'm talking about the vaccines and I'm talking about COVID. And I believe there were like 5 or 6 right-wing talk show hosts who were anti-vaccine, who anti-mask, who didn't believe COVID was real. And I believe 5 or 6 of those right-wing conservative talk show hosts are now dead. They died of COVID. I wasn't gleeful. I wasn't joyful talking about it, but it's their fault. They're the ones who spread medical misinformation. They're the ones who didn't get vaccinated. They're the ones who didn't wear masks. Now they're dead. Who else do you blame? Again, that number to call, 702-221-7283. Again, 702-221-7283. Oh, let's start off with a conversation that always gets me going. Let's start off with Julie. Julie, let me start by making an assumption that you think Ashley Babbitt was murdered. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, it's a fair assumption.
Shocker.
Brian.
Shocker.
No. I wonder how can you sleep at night?
How can I sleep
knowing
at night?
That
I close my eyes.
Knowing that a woman who punched the guy who broke the window, actually, because if you see the footage, he punched the guy.
Completely academic, completely irrelevant and academic to the story.
Don't you think that that police...
So why was Ashley trying to go through the window? Julie, why was Ashley trying to go through the window? Why was she trying to break through the window?
Well, for whatever reason.
No. I'm asking you. I'm asking you. Answer the question. Why was Ashley... hold on. Let me ask the question first. When a gun was pointed at her, and 15 seconds before people were yelling, he's got a gun, why was Ashley Babbitt, at the moment she was shot, the last moments of her life, why was she trying to break through a glass window? Can you please explain why she was trying to do that?
She was trying to go to the representative in office.
So you think when somebody is trying to go to a representative in office, that's the appropriate thing to do, to try to break through a window? Julie?
Why not?
Why not? Pot her down. Julie, you don't own the Capitol. You can't just go in there and go into any office that you please. So you're wrong there. That's number one. Number two, Julie, are you trying to make the case on this show that if you want to talk to your representative, you should be legally allowed to storm the Capitol and to break through window and destruction of property? Is that the claim that you're trying to make on this show? You're saying that Ashley Babbitt wasn't doing anything wrong? Is that what you're trying to say?
The cop has no right.
That's not what I asked you. The investigation disagrees with you, and Ashley, excuse me, Julie. Julie, I need you to answer my question. Julie,
you are misinformed.
Julie, was there not an investigation? What am I misinformed? What did I say that's not factually accurate? Was there not an investigation? Did the investigation not prove that he was in the right? Where am I wrong? Julie, answer my question. Julie, pot her down. Pot her down. Julie, you don't answer my questions. You can disagree with the investigation, but the fact of the matter is that there, Julie, I need you to listen. There was an investigation, Julie, and in that investigation, they found that this man, Michael Byrd, did not do anything wrong. So it doesn't matter what your opinion is. That's a fact. That's number one. Number two, I ask you a very basic question, and I ask you, why was Ashley Babbitt trying to break through a window? And you said, oh, she just wanted to speak to a representative. And you're defending her behavior. I can't have a conversation with you if on video she's breaking the law and you can't even admit that she was breaking the law, then we can't have an investigation. If you don't think that guy was in the right for shooting her, even though there was an investigation, that's one thing. But when you can't even admit, Julie, that she was stormed the Capitol, she was breaking the law, destruction of property, trying to break the window and go through a window, and you defend that and you don't even admit that she was breaking the law, how can I have a conversation with you, Julie?
Do you think that everyone in this country breaking the law should be shot? Is that what you're
Julie, that's probably Julie, I appreciate that statement. Julie, I appreciate that statement. That's probably the dumbest thing I've ever.
You narcissistic bitch.
That's not very nice.
Stop it. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm not finished. I'm doing my thing. No, stop it. Stop it.
Julie, I can't have a conversation with you when you make it probably the most ignorant, dumbest statement I've ever heard on this show, and that's saying something. That everybody should be shot if they are breaking the law. Not only have I never made a statement like that, but to make a statement and even say something like that is absurd and ridiculous. I call out bad policing when I see it every day. Guess what? It was proven that Michael Byrd was doing his job, and you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Why don't we go to Ron? Let's go to Ron. Ron is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Ron. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. How are you? It's been a while since I've talked to you.
What's up,
How you
Ron?
been?
Good, man. What's on your mind?
Sound pretty good. Listen, she was trespassing. Isn't this the peace officer that forgot his gun in the bathroom? He's been written up on several occasions.
So just because just because somebody forgot their gun in a bathroom doesn't mean they're a murderer. So that's completely irrelevant to the case.
That's a serious offense for a police officer.
But it has nothing to do. Yeah, but it has nothing to do with right. But it has nothing to do, and it's irrelevant to the investigation.
It shows irresponsibility, my friend.
Okay, well, you can be irresponsible. You can be irresponsible, but it doesn't mean you're a murderer. So again, I repeat myself. It has nothing to do with this case.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. Oh, explain to me how it does. So if somebody leaves their gun in a bathroom, you can correlate that to, oh, it must have been murder? Please explain that to me.
I'm going to, if you let me speak, okay? You can't make good decisions if you can't keep a hold of your own firearm, sir. That's just out of the question.
Okay, so regardless of whether it was self-defense or not, because somebody made
it wasn't self-defense.
Okay, why?
She didn't have a weapon.
Don't have to have a weapon. Don't have to have a weapon. Don't have to. You don't know what the law is. You don't have to have a weapon in order for it to be self-defense.
I do know what the law is more than you do.
Okay, so explain it to me then. So you have to be armed in order for it to be self-defense?
You don't shoot an unarmed
That's
person.
not what I asked you.
And she was unarmed.
That's not what I asked you. First of all.
He made the wrong judgment call.
Okay,
that's the wrong judgment
that's
call.
not
It's
what
really simple, Brian.
That's not what I asked you. You're not answering my question. Are you saying the law cites clearly that if you're unarmed, it can't be self-defense? Is that what you are saying?
No, I'm stating that he was in the right. Let me finish, Brian.
Gotcha.
He was in the right for shooting the woman. She was trespassing.
She was doing more than trespassing. She was doing more than trespassing.
It was a trespass.
She was doing more than trespassing.
Okay. Continue. Go ahead.
She was doing more than trespassing. She was trying to break through a window where that guy's job is to protect the men and women that are congressmen and congresswomen and politicians. While crowds were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," there was a crowd of people there as he is pointing his gun at her. And by the way, she had to have known that a gun was pointed at her because there were people yelling, "He's got a gun, he's got a gun." While that is all going on and he's pointing his gun at that mob, which was about 15 to 20 feet away from the vice president and other officials and other politicians, she is trying to break through a window. How do you not understand that? It's not just a trespass.
No, I understand it as a trespass. That's why she got shot.
It's more than a trespass. That's what I'm trying to explain to you, Ron.
Number one, the window was already broken. She trespassed that window.
Okay, so because it was partially already...
Whether or not she was paying attention.
So because it was partially... Okay, so going by your logic, if a window is partially broken in a jewelry store, if I break into the jewelry store and go through that window, that makes it totally okay by your logic?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay,
you said that.
So then don't talk about how a window is partially broken because, again, it's academic to the conversation.
Okay, the other question I want to ask you on, a COVID shot that's what I call it, as a shot, because the definition of a vaccine is remedy or cure. Okay, it's only a shot. Now, when Colin Powell got the shot, he died of it. Can you explain that?
Okay, so now you're spreading now you're trying to spread a conspiracy theory that somehow Paul
it's a
died.
fact.
Oh,
It's a
Paul.
fact.
So
They have the
so it's a
proof on
fact that Paul died from the vaccine. Is that what you're saying, sir?
That's what they said.
Who said that? Who's they? Who's they? His doctor? Who said that?
That's what the news said.
No. I didn't ask you what the news said. What medical professional that knows Paul's medical history said that he died from the vaccine? Answer the question.
Let me go back and research that. So
You better go back and research that, Ron. I'm not. Go back and research it. Let me tell you, Ron, there is zero evidence that Mr. Paul, who by the way was a hero, died from the vaccine. And if people like you could stop drinking the right-wing moronic Kool-Aid and spreading conspiracy theories, you defend domestic terrorists, and then you spread conspiracy theories about Paul. Have a nice day, Ron. Good to hear from you. Holy smokes. Let me go back and do my research. Yeah, what are you going to watch? Tucker Carlson talking about how Ashley Babbitt's a hero and Kyle Rittenhouse is a hero and the McCloskeys are heroes. Let me go back and do my research. Guess what? There is no doctor that knew Powell that said that he died from the vaccines. You're the type of person that spreads medical misinformation, and I've had it with people like you. 702-221-7283. Beyond ignorant garbage. Let's go to Kava, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Kava? Hi, Kava.
So I want to address one small thing right now. I want to make this as clear as possibly can. Republicans, you did this to yourselves. You did it to yourself.
Yeah.
Donald Trump told you to go to the Capitol, and you listened, and you got yourselves on the live. That's nobody else's fault but yours.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I got to tell you.
Like it,
yeah, you're right.
Not my problem.
Kava, isn't it incredible to me? Because I'm talking about Dr. Phil in the first segment, and this guy Ron calls in. I'm sure Ron's a nice guy, okay? But he calls in, and then he spreads some sort of weird conspiracy theory that because Paul died and he was vaccinated, he must have died from the vaccination. Now, obviously, there's no evidence. So when I say to him, where did you get that from? Where's the evidence? Oh, I heard it on the news. No. What actual medical professional that knows Paul's medical history made that claim? Oh, I got to go back and do my research. How do you have a conversation with some of these dopes? I mean, it's unbelievable. I heard it on the news. Oh, I heard it from Mike Lindell. Where's your evidence that Donald Trump won the 2020 election? Oh, I heard it on the news. Oh, who'd you hear it? Mike Lindell, the My Pillow idiot, told me. I mean, these are who these people are. How do you have a conversation with these people?
And what I find hilarious about these people is, you know how you said that they got it from the pillow guy? Okay, first off, my biggest question is, how the hell are you listening to a guy who sells pillows?
Yeah.
Bro, he sells pillows. How?
These are the people that at CPAC. Hey, these are the people that they look up to when we go to, hey, how did Trump win the 2020 election? Well, how did Joe Biden lose? Trump won. We go to Mike Lindell, the My Pillow moron, who's probably still drugged out. And then we go to Dinesh D'Souza, 2,000 Mules, which was proven debunked even in a courtroom, the felon. These are who they go to, or the morons like the Kerry Lakes of the world who's been trashing the McCain family, and now when she realizes she can't win an election without McCain Republicans, then all of a sudden she wants to meet up with Meghan McCain and apologize. These people are the biggest clowns on the planet. They really are.
And what I love about this is how they go to say that, oh, well, Donald Trump didn't do anything. He didn't tell us to go to the Capitol. We did it at our own free will. Dog. Yeah. Have you not seen the video? Did you learn nothing? He told you specifically, I'm going to be there with you, and we're going to go down there.
You have a woman.
Your choice.
You have a woman in Ashley Babbitt who was a domestic terrorist. I wish she didn't die, but she did it to herself. There's video of her trying to break through a window. And then Ron's excuse is, well, the window was already partially broken. Well, in that case, if I see a window that's partially broken at a jewelry store and I decide to go in there and commit a crime and go in there, as long as that will be my excuse to the judge. Judge, my defense is the window was already partially broken. I mean, could you come up with something more idiotic than that, Kava? I mean, it's unbelievable.
No, you want to know what's funny about this is, you know how people will go to these abandoned homes because the door was already halfway broken?
Yeah.
And this is the same kind of thing. It's like,
yeah.
So the
Yeah.
door or window's broken.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and jump into it. Like it's not illegal.
That's what some of these right-wing hypocrites talk about. You see some of these right-wing hypocrites that even a pastor, I played the audio last week, saying, justifying rape if a woman is wearing short shorts. I played the audio. I mean, why does it always come from the far right? The justifying sexual assault. Kava, I appreciate the call, my friend. Hang in there, my friend, and we'll talk to you soon, okay? I appreciate the phone call.
Hey, one more thing. I'm also sharing your TikTok stream on my broadcast. I'm also sharing it to get the word out.
Thank you.
You're done with these people. There's no saving these clowns anymore.
No, you can't.
You did this to yourself. End of story. We're done with them. We've had enough of their games.
Yep.
We're done. Period.
Yep. Thank you, Kava. Well said. You reap what you sow. They wanted Donald Trump. Now they got him. You can't escape him. 702-221-7283. Let's go to John, who is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, John.
How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind, John?
Quite a bit. First, I just want to say D.C. and Hollywood has been sexually trafficking our children for decades at places like the Bohemian Grove and Epstein's Island. Even John McCain's wife said what was going on in Epstein's Island was common knowledge in their circles. And within their circles, it's a small world, right? Now, going on to the border, child sex trafficking at the southern border has exploded since 2021.
I'm confused. I haven't really been talking about the border, but I mean, I'll still answer your question. But I've been talking about Dr. Phil's statements when it comes to school children and COVID and the shutdowns. And if you do want to talk about the trafficking of children, I don't know what Hollywood has to do with it. I mean, when it goes to
Hollywood and D.C. have been sexually trafficking our children for decades.
So let me ask you a question. Are you the first person that calls out Donald Trump when he has pictures with Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, I know Bill Clinton was on that plane as well, but you would agree with me that it is Republicans and Democrats that are capable of committing sexual assault, right?
Most certainly it is.
Okay,
it's
good.
both
Then we agree.
parties.
So let me be very clear. I don't care whether it's Hollywood, and I think you'll agree with me on this. I don't care whether it's Hollywood or it's in Africa or Germany or whatever occupation, Republican, Democrat. Sexual assault is horrible. We agree that it is wrong and it shouldn't happen. So I would hope, John, that you would agree with me that when a man who wants to run for president again is found liable for sexual abuse, I'm sure you're disgusted by that, right, John?
Well, see, I would if he actually committed that sexual abuse.
Okay, but he was found liable for sexual abuse by a jury of his peers. Why do you discount that? Is it because he's a Republican or you're a Trump supporter? Yeah, go ahead.
No. I'm not. I'm not Republican or Democrat.
Okay, so why are you discounting it then?
Because first, Mr. Reed has been a long-time client of Epstein. That's number one. Number two,
Wait. Come again. What does Jeffrey Epstein have to do with the E. Jean Carroll case?
Mr. Reed, who paid for her legal defense, is a long-time client of Epstein's Island.
Does that mean that she wasn't sexually assaulted? Does that mean you don't believe the jury? Does the jury have something to do with Jeffrey Epstein? I'm confused.
Here's what the juries.
Okay.
U.S. citizens, which are legal fictions, can only vote for presidential elections and be juries on a jury.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry to say, but U.S. citizens do not know their rights, do not know the law.
Okay, that has nothing to do with the case.
Don't even know the difference between the United States and America.
But that is academic to the case we're talking about. Let me ask you another question. Do you think it's just
it's academic, sure.
Okay, so let me ask you another question.
If you don't know the rights,
okay, so John, let me ask
how they supposed to discern
a jury? Nothing to do with a jury deciding that Donald Trump was liable for sexual abuse. But let me ask you another question. Do you think it's just a coincidence that 25 women have accused Donald Trump of sexual assault or rape, including Donald Trump's ex-wife, in court documents? Or are all those women?
I'll ask you this.
Are all the no? Don't ask me a question. I'm asking you. Do you think that's a coincidence, or do you think all those women are just lying?
Well, it depends on when did they come up with these accusations during his presidency?
No, they didn't.
Or during an election cycle?
Did you hear what I just said? Donald Trump's ex-wife in court documents years ago, way before he decided to be in political life, in court documents under oath, in a deposition, said that at the time her husband raped her. And then what did Donald Trump do? He paid her off to make the case go away. Dozens of other women, not have all come out.
Whoa.
Yes.
If she said that under oath.
Yes, in a deposition.
Then there is no payoff for that, dude.
Okay, you don't
There
know.
is no fucking payoff for that.
So first of all, this is a radio show, so you don't say the F word on this show. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Please don't swear. That's number one. Number two,
I apologize.
That's okay. Number two, with all due respect, you are wrong. You can pay people off to shut them down or shut them off or make a case go away to get a case thrown out. That's exactly what Donald Trump did with his ex-wife. And that ex-wife he buried on the first hole of his golf course so he could save tax money. That's the guy that you're defending, that you can't believe that he would sexually abuse E. Jean Carroll. And that has nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. It has everything to do with Donald Trump's
Because
history.
there's no evidence to prove that.
Okay, so, sir,
Right?
a jury heard all the evidence that clearly.
Okay,
hold on.
there was no.
Okay, sir. A jury heard all the evidence that obviously you are not aware of, and they decided that they would find Donald Trump liable of sexual abuse. The judge called it rape, which I would agree with. That is a fact. Now, if you don't believe E. Jean Carroll, example, if she was the only woman to come forward and say, boy, Donald Trump raped me, he sexually assaulted me, fine. Would you say the same about Bill Cosby? He's had tons of women who have come forward
Bill
years
Cosby's
later.
innocent.
Okay, have a nice day, sir. I can't have a conversation with you. You think Bill Cosby's innocent? Have a nice day, John. I'm speechless. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. 702-221-7283. Who's next? Who do we have next on here? Let's go to Herb. Herb is next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Herb.
Thanks, Brian, for taking my call once again. Let me ask you this. Was it a Capitol policeman that shot Ashley Babbitt?
Capitol Security. Michael Byrd was Capitol Security. And obviously,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Who did the investigation on that shooting?
They did. They investigated it, and they found that he was not in the wrong.
Okay. So the Capitol Police did the investigation on the shooting of Ashley Babbitt.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I rest my case. One other question I want to ask.
What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't understand.
Well, I don't know that it was a fair and balanced investigation if they did an investigation on their own officer. But
okay, so hold on. With the history of Capitol Police, not just at the Washington, D.C. Capitol, but Capitol Police across the country, there have been police officers that have been prosecuted, and it is very possible to prosecute someone or at least fire someone or let someone go. They didn't do any of those things because the evidence, and in a high-profile case like this, where there's actual video evidence and it's national news, I'm pretty sure they did their due diligence, and I watched the video, and I see nothing wrong with what Michael Byrd did. I actually see everything wrong with what she did that day, and it cost her life. But go ahead.
Okay, but one more thing then. If he was justified in shooting her, why didn't they shoot the original intruders of the Capitol they came through the windows at the beginning?
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is it's not if he was justified. He was justified. So I just want to correct you right there, number one. And number two, hold on. And number two, when people were breaking into the Capitol, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. There were failures on the part of Capitol Security that day. There's no doubt about that. But not every moment of every person that broke into the Capitol were there security police there with armed weapons. The problem we had, not true. You don't know what you're talking about. There's video. Not true. You don't know what you're talking. Not true. You don't know what you're talking about. There's videos. Excuse me. There are videos of people breaking in without any Capitol Police around. Now, in some cases there were, but here's the difference. I'm going to answer your question, Herb. What's the difference between what Ashley Babbitt was doing and some of those other instances? Ashley Babbitt was about 15 feet away from politicians. Let me repeat that. She was 10 to 15 feet away from elected politicians in office. In many of those other videos, they were not 10 to 15 feet away. That made the threat far more dangerous. Do you understand that, sir?
No. Listen, do you?
No, you don't. You don't understand what I just said? You don't understand what I just said?
I understand exactly what you said.
And it doesn't make any sense at all.
What I'm saying to you is the police officer that called earlier was saying she did not have a weapon.
You don't have
Although
to.
she trespassed.
Herb, I just went over this.
Brian,
Herb,
come on, man.
Herb, come on,
Listen.
man. Herb, come on, man.
No.
No. When you are 15 feet away from politicians in this aspect, and you have people like Ashley Babbitt that are trying to break through a window, screaming and chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," I would absolutely be in fear of my life. I know many people there that day were, and that is why the officer was justified in doing what he did, Herb. I'm sorry you disagree with me on that. I'm sorry, Herb, but I got to get to some other callers. 702-221-7283 was the number to call. How can you say that somebody wasn't in fear of their life or that wasn't a threat when you have people screaming and yelling and chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," a mob of people that were doing so, and they're 10 feet away from some of these politicians, and Herb is saying, well, that wasn't a threat to somebody's life. Are you kidding me? 702-221-7283. Let's go to Steve. Steve is next up on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Steve?
Hey, how you doing, Brian?
Good, man.
I just want to ask these maggots a question. If you were in your home or your place of business and it was your duty and your responsibility to protect the people inside that home or that building that you're in, your workplace, answer yourself this question honestly. Wouldn't you have done the same thing with a crowd of maniacs outside the door breaking in? I can guarantee your answer would be yes.
You know, you're so right. And I want to give another. Isn't it interesting, sir, Steve, that if you remember the Black Lives Matter protesters that were on a private road, they weren't even on the McCloskey's private property. They weren't trying to break into their home. But yet they justified and they tried to back these two white people, this couple, pointing their AR-15s at this mob that were not actually on their even private property. But that was totally okay. But then when it comes to the Ashley Babbitt situation and a black security officer shoots a white woman, they say it's murder. Don't you find that interesting, the hypocrites that are on the far right?
Oh, it's just disgusting. How about Trayvon Martin? What weapon did he have?
None. Skittles. But some of them defended George Zimmerman, didn't they? Some of them did. Oh no, he was a thug. He was up to no good. When George Zimmerman racially profiled him, an innocent young man who was walking home with Skittles in his pocket. But some of these people on the far right, like the Sean Hannitys of the world, who had George Zimmerman on multiple times defending George Zimmerman. It's so disgusting to me, and they'll defend Ashley Babbitt. You know, Ashley Babbitt's mom will probably be speaking at the Republican National Convention, you know?
Right. I forget the young man's name, but his last name was Brown. He was another one that had an altercation with a police officer.
Yeah, I think you're unarmed. Yeah, well, I have to say, I think if you're talking about Ferguson, I have to be fair. I think you're talking about Michael Brown. I will say this. It's one of my biggest criticisms of Barack Obama, and I like Barack Obama. I think he was a good president, and he's a good man. Michael Brown, the evidence, and I go by evidence, right? I'm an evidence-based person. Ashley Babbitt was committing a crime. She did it to herself. Michael Brown did that to himself. The evidence was overwhelming that he attacked that police officer. There were witnesses on the scene who were black who said Michael Brown charged at the officer. There was no hands up, don't shoot. So I do want to be fair, you know, when it comes to that case, as an example there, to be fair.
I agree with you. One more thing. Dr. Phil, the greatest psychologist in the world, he doesn't recognize that Donald Trump is the most dangerous, malignant narcissist on the planet.
Well, you're not going to hear an argument from me on that one. He is right. He gets up in the morning. This is what he does, Steve. He gets up in the morning without Melania because she's nowhere to be seen. I don't blame her. He puts on his five cake layers of orange makeup because he's the most insecure man you'll ever meet. He does his tuck in with his shirt so we can't. It's harder to see his morbidly obese body, and he lies all day. He lies. He plays victim. This is who Donald Trump is, and he's going to be a convicted felon, my friend, and I appreciate your phone call. Thank you for calling in, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, Steve. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go. Who are we going to next here? Let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next up on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Joseph?
Yeah, hey, Brian. I've been hearing after hearing you about Ashley Babbitt, makes me think she's I think that the reason why she was the only problem with that is that she broke into the White House, to the American Capitol, with a bunch of Trump-supporting maniacs, including Proud Boys, and I don't think that's trespassing. That's breaking and entering.
Well, yeah, you're right. I agree with you, and some of those people were convicted for some very serious crimes. So you're right. It's not just a simple trespass. You know, Ron, who calls into this show, makes it seem like, oh, it was just a simple trespass. You know, nothing more, nothing less. No, it wasn't. She was 10 feet away from these politicians, and they were screaming, "Hang Mike Pence." The mob was screaming, "Hang Mike Pence." And they're defending her, and they make her out to be some sort of hero. And the apple doesn't go too far from the tree, because her mother was arrested for assault. Her mother is a lunatic also. I feel sorry for the family. I wish it didn't happen. I'm not gleeful in talking about it. But, you know, Ashley Babbitt was trending on social media the other day because her mom is making the rounds, saying it's a two-tier justice system. You know, let me tell you something right now. If a member of my family was there on January 6th and they were trying to attack politicians in office, screaming, "Hang Mike Pence," and they were trying to break through a window and they were shot, while I would be mourning the death of a member of my family, I would blame nobody but them for being there in the first place. That's just me.
Yeah, I agree with that one, because that's the problem with these people. That's the problem with those callers too, is that they're making Trump look like the good guy, but the problem is this is a guy who has 91 felony counts. And not to mention, he's at 4 indictments, and I don't know what's going on with the court right now, but I'm just hoping that Trump better not drop the soap when he goes to jail.
Well, I'll say, that's funny. I will say this. You know, he owes $454 million in this judgment. Apparently, he's unable to post a full bond. The guy that's apparently allegedly a billionaire, right? He can't post the full bond. I guess he's not a billionaire, and he wants your money, so make sure to buy those $19 sneakers for $400 because they have a T on them. Well, I feel like you can buy those sneakers at the dollar store, and if you took a Sharpie and wrote the letter T on it, you get some of these MAGA buffoons to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars for something you could buy at the dollar store. I'm telling you, they are so gullible, it's unbelievable. I wore this jacket, I wore this suit when I was indicted, and we took a little patch from the suit. I'll sell it to you for $25,000. It's a piece of history. I mean, these people are so gullible, it's unbelievable.
And the one thing I want to say about those sneakers, if Trump wants you to buy those sneakers, I would just buy them and put them in the barbecue grill and videotape myself.
You know what?
With a lighter, as a way of saying, that's my way of saying to Trump and to the MAGA Republicans, this is what, since they like book burns and book bans so badly, here's my answer.
I'm gonna give you this. If you buy I don't want you to pay Trump, but if you do buy those sneakers and you do that, we're gonna do it live on this show via Zoom. Okay? Give me some advance notice, and we'll do it live on this show. Okay, my man.
Sure thing.
All right. Thanks for the call, buddy. I appreciate it. 702. I really don't want him to buy the sneakers, but if he does, if he wants to burn them live on the show, we can do that. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mike. Mike is next up on Pushing the Limits. What's going on, Mike?
Yeah, hi. I wanted to comment about Dr. Anthony Fauci. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, this is a guy who had a 50-year career as a public servant behind the scenes and was a totally anonymous guy doing it.
Correct.
Served 5 administrations of all stripes, and all of them had the wisdom to recognize his intelligence and his understanding of infectious disease and follow his recommendations. In so doing, he protected us from SARS and hemorrhagic Ebola, among other things. I was a registered nurse in a critical care area in Dover, Delaware, when hemorrhagic Ebola was a threat. And myself and all of my coworkers were preparing to receive the first civilian casualties of hemorrhagic Ebola. We were all trained and prepared, double gloving and all the infectious disease protocols to receive these patients, all with the understanding of this is how you care for these people until they're dead. They're infected, they're going to die. And if you break protocol in any way, you're going to get it and you're going to die.
Right.
We were scared to death. We never had to worry about it.
Right.
Not only did we not have to worry about it, but the 7 or 8 cases of Americans got hemorrhagic Ebola, we're saved.
Let's be clear. Dr. Fauci has more medical experience in his pinky than most people have in their entire body. And while Dr. Fauci is not perfect, we all make mistakes, I'll take his opinions and his knowledge when it comes to infectious disease over any one of those demon sperm doctors that the far right wingers out there put on Fox News every day that are selling their books and peddling their books, the 4 or 5 doctors, that make the rounds to try to, make money. Dr. Fauci you're right, he's been doing this for decades. He's worked for 5 different administrations. And for all those people out there that are the MAGA Trumpers who say, and Trump said, I only hire the best. Well, guess what? Donald Trump is the guy that hired Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx. So stop complaining about it. And I have no problems with Dr. Fauci at all. Does he like the camera a little bit? Sure. But the guy's been doing this for a very, very long time.
About that, okay? Let's strip it back to the walls for 1 second. Along comes the Trump administration. The Trump administration walked up to the Obama administration, the outgoing administration, and said, okay, I got to bring all of your people up to speed on what our needs. Yeah. And Obama said, no, my people are leaving with me.
Yeah.
They're not going to work for you.
Right.
And while we're at it, you need to appoint 5,700 federal positions that you're responsible for. And he looked at them blankly and walked away. He never appointed those positions, among them being a federal appointees for the CDC.
Mm-hmm.
Then along comes COVID. And he knew full well what was going on with COVID. We had people, there was an on-the-ground person from the World Health Organization who was giving us real-time information in Wuhan on what was going on and what they were doing and their recommendations on how to contain it.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did he not listen to him, he defunded the WHO.
Right.
While calling it, I know this isn't politically correct, I'm quoting him, the chink flu.
Right. Well, okay. It was Donald Trump. It was Donald Trump who called it Kung flu and all these other things.
Right, exactly.
Right. Keep in mind
that's the genius. That's the cartoon genius.
Yeah, exactly. And keep in mind, Donald Trump is also the guy who talked about the possibility of injecting yourself with disinfectant, and then the next day, Trump Republicans out there do what they always do. They make excuses for him. Oh, the context. Oh, he was just joking. Let me be very clear. Nobody in that room was laughing when he made those idiotic remarks. You could see Dr. Birx there rolling her eyes. It was embarrassing because Donald Trump is an embarrassment. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And you're absolutely right, sir. I appreciate your call, and I'm glad you brought all that stuff up because to me, Dr. Fauci is a hero, and he's not somebody.
Dr. Fauci was a quote unquote media whore because he had to defend himself.
Absolutely, the attacks on the far right.
He was getting threats. He was getting death threats to his grandchildren.
Yeah. Despicable.
And what was his only weapon? His weapon was to get in front of the camera and tell people these idiots.
Yeah, you're right. And by the way, why?
That's all he had. Why he did it.
None of that stuff
didn't want to be a media.
None of that stuff was happening until Donald Trump started going after Dr. Fauci, and all the far right MAGA followers who wear the Donald Trump knee pads were going after him as well. You're absolutely right, and I'm glad you brought that up, and I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. He's absolutely right. 702-221-7283. We are going to take a break here in a few minutes, but we'll take a few more phone calls. Let's go to Lakeisha. Lakeisha is next up on Pushing Limits. Hi, Lakeisha.
Hey, Brian. I watch you on TikTok, and I just want to say Ashley Babbitt was a 14-year veteran of the military.
Yes, she was.
She knew better.
Yeah, you're right. And doesn't that make it so sad? Because obviously anybody who serves this country honorably, I have a great amount of respect for. Even somebody like a Ron DeSantis, who I can't stand politically, but he served the country. Ashley Babbitt was a veteran. She served the country. If anybody should have known better, it was her, right? I agree with you.
Well, just because a window is broken does not mean you can go through it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the excuse of some of these people. I mean, what do I say to somebody like that? It's absurd. It's crazy.
Well, the building was closed to the public.
Correct.
It was an insurrection.
Yes.
They were under threat.
Mm-hmm.
And he defended the House of Representatives. Period, plain and simple.
Now, listen, I agree with you. I define it as an insurrection as well. But you know what? I don't even care what these people characterize it. They could call it a riot or they can call it an insurrection. Here's what we know for sure. It was an embarrassing day for the country. A mob, a group of white supremacist MAGA supporters stormed the Capitol. They defecated on Nancy Pelosi's desk. They stole property. They busted up property. 140 officers had to go to the hospital. People died that day. And it doesn't happen if Donald Trump was not the president of the United States, and it certainly doesn't happen if Trump doesn't lie and say he won the 2020 election. That's what we know for sure.
Well, like Trump says, he loves the poorly uneducated.
And many of them support him, sadly, right? I mean, many of them support him. I'm not saying everybody that supports Trump is a dummy, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are. And I agree with Vivek Ramaswamy. It might be one of the only things I agree with Vivek. I actually think we should have an IQ test to vote. I really do. I think we're getting to that point now. I really am.
Well, I have 3 children that are veterans, and they would never.
Well, because you sound like an intelligent woman. Because you sound like an intelligent person, and you're probably a really good mom, and you raise your children a certain way. And thank you, by the way, for your family in service to this nation. Before I let you go, I want to ask you this: as having 3 children who serve, which I have so much respect for you and your family, when Donald Trump calls people like your children suckers and losers, attacks a POW for being captured, what goes through your mind? Because you know the sacrifices that your kids have to make.
I believe that Donald Trump is deplorable, and he's disgusting, and he's not fit for office.
Amen.
And
Amen.
I'm truly offended that he would say something about people that volunteer for service.
Yeah.
They volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they get a sign-on bonus, which is not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
The VA treats them badly.
Right.
I mean, it's getting better because Biden took office, but it's voluntary. It's voluntary. There's no more selective service. People in the military volunteer. Mm-hmm. So for someone to disrespect the military like that, it's disgusting.
Well, let's defend Donald Trump because he has bone spurs, so let's defend Donald Trump for dodging the military several times. Donald Trump has never sacrificed for anybody but himself. He only cares about himself. Look at the way he's treated everybody around him, including the women in his life. He only cares about himself, but yet the evangelical right will look up to Donald Trump as Cheeto Jesus, as the next Messiah. Thank you so much for calling in. You and your family, your heroes in your family. I wish you all very, very well, safe and prosperity. And thanks to your children, I'm able to go on the radio every day, and I will never forget that. So thank you for your call so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Brian.
Appreciate you. A family of heroes, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump would call her family suckers and losers. Not me. Not me. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. You serve this country honorably. I respect you. It doesn't mean I respect the behavior of Ashley Babbitt on January 6th, because I don't. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Pim. Pim is next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Pim.
Hello there, Brian. I'm new to listening to you, and I really, really am enjoying it and spreading the word to everyone around me.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
My biggest thing is I just don't understand how the Antichrist Trump got away with saying, come to the Capitol on January 6th. It's going to be wild. Why they haven't questioned him on that?
Well, they have. What Jack Smith decided, and I disagree, but what Jack Smith decided is to not, go after him for inciting. Now, I respectfully disagree with Jack Smith. He's going to get him on some other things. Here's why I think Jack Smith did what he did. Because he thought it would be really hard to prove. While we all know that January 6th does not happen if Donald Trump doesn't say the election was stolen. We know that. But I think from a legal standpoint, Jack Smith might have made the right decision legally because he knows it would have been really hard to convict him on that. But we all know. You know what Jack Smith's getting Donald Trump for? His behavior that day, sitting on his ass, eating his KFC in the Oval Office for 5 hours, watching TV, refusing to put out a statement. That actions speak louder, than words. He did nothing. And then he puts out a video 5 hours into it after people were killed, puts out a video that says, "We love you, but please go home." So Jack Smith,
peaceful protest. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
There was nothing peaceful about it.
Nothing. You're absolutely right. Nothing. The people that stormed that Capitol, many of them are still in jail.
Come through. Don't make them go through the metal detector. They're not here to harm me. I mean, those words are pretty powerful.
They are, and anytime you talk to a MAGA Republican about January 6th, they want to change the subject and they want to talk about Black Lives Matter protests. So let me.
I say to people every time they bring it up, I go, January 6th, January 6th. I keep repeating it, January 6th.
Here's what I say to them.
Everybody in the world saw it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Here's what I say to them when they bring. I say, by the way, I don't defend anybody attacking police officers or burning down buildings. I always get out that right of the way, because you'll never hear a Republican start off by saying, I don't defend the actions of those on January 6th. Rarely will you hear Republicans say that supports Trump. But what I say is this. You had tens of millions of people across the country. I was one of them. I went to some Black Lives Matter protests. The overwhelming majority of those people were not violent people. Some agitators did some very, very bad things, but they were there for equality. All the people that were there on January 6th, while all of them were not violent, they were all there based on a lie, that they believed that the election was stolen. We had a free and fair election. So they were all there protesting based on a lie, while Black Lives Matter protesters were protesting based on wanting black people to be treated fairly and equally. Two very different things. And while I don't defend any sort of violence or breaking the law, there are two completely different entities. One is an insurrection based on a lie. Another one is, hey, we just want people to be treated fairly and equally. So there's no comparison.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you found my show. I appreciate you calling in, and you call back anytime, okay? I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Take care now.
Thank you. You as well. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Patrick. Patrick is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Brian. I just wanted to reach out and see what your thoughts were on the election yesterday in Michigan. It looks like Genocide Joe lost pretty bigly to Uncommitted.
Okay, so first of all, I'm not even sure you understand what the definition of genocide is. Why would you call Joe Biden Genocide Joe? Explain that to me,
I
please,
think there's
sir.
a lot of people on the left that are saying that. Huh?
I didn't ask you. I didn't ask you about people on the left. You're the one who called in. Why is Joe Biden Genocide Joe? Why is he committing genocide? Explain that to me, please.
A lot of people are dying.
Okay. Just because a lot of people are dying doesn't mean Joe Biden is committing genocide. So I ask you again, why would you call Joe Biden Genocide Joe? Genocide Patrick? Why would you call
it's the trendy thing to do these days?
It's a trendy thing. Okay, so it's very trendy to call somebody. Do you even know what genocide is, Patrick? Do you even know what it is?
Yeah. Look what's happening.
What is the definition? What is the definition? Give me the definition of what genocide is. What is it? Do you even know what it is?
It's a complete destruction of a people. Yes.
What type of people?
And
what type of
people? There are no more Ukrainians in Ukraine.
What type of people?
There's going to be no more.
That's not the definition of genocide. It's not the killing of people. What type of people? Be a little bit more specific.
The mass extinction of a race.
Okay, so
the country.
So it's your so going by that, it's your opinion.
Oh, genocide. Joe,
excuse me.
Like that, huh?
So going by, I know you think it's funny genocide. You think it's funny. Somebody like you. So going by your definition, you're saying that Joe Biden is intentionally trying to get rid of and murder a group of people. Can you tell me who those people are?
Joe Biden is responsible for the death of hundreds of thousands of people. Yes.
Gotcha. So he's which people? What are you referring to?
All of it's happened under Joe Biden.
Which people?
Not Donald Trump.
Okay, so millions of people died under Donald Trump during COVID. So would you say Donald Trump is responsible? Don't please me. I'm just going by your idiotic, ignorant logic. So all those people that died of COVID under Donald Trump, that's genocide, right? That's all Donald Trump's fault, right?
People didn't die of COVID.
Okay, all right.
COVID.
Patrick,
but nobody died of COVID.
Patrick, talking to people like you, it's very difficult, Patrick.
Hey, but what about
I try to do it.
Joe
I'm
Biden
talking.
lost to
Hey, Patrick, I'm talking now. That means you either listen or hang up. Okay, Genocide Patrick, that's your new nickname, Genocide Patrick. You know why I'm going to call you that? Because it's trendy, Patrick, because a lot of people dying while you're alive. Okay, Genocide Patrick, so it's your opinion that Joe Biden is responsible for hundreds of thousands of people dying. Patrick, that's a very intelligent take. I got to say, you sound like a Rhodes Scholar. You sound like somebody that's a MAGA supporter, Patrick. Is there anything else, Genocide Patrick, that you'd like to add to this very intelligent phone call? Yeah, I can't wait. Go ahead.
I hadn't been watching the show, but I just realized that
you hadn't been watching the show.
So
You're addicted to me, and you watch it. You're addicted to me. You watch this show every day, and you pleasure yourself to a poster of me in your bedroom every day. It's why you call into this show every day. You can't get enough of me. Sorry, Patrick. Right-wing MAGA buffoons are not my type. If I had a fetish for low IQ people that love Donald Trump, maybe I'd ask you out on a date. Sorry, Patrick, but you're not my type. Genocide Patrick. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. That guy, Numchuck, get the mic for a second, please. That guy said he just started listening to my show. Numchuck is our producer, by the way. Numchuck, how many times would you say Patrick has called into this show?
How many shows have you done?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Patrick is obsessed with me. He's got a fetish with me, just like Julie does. 702-221-7283 is the number to call.
Can we hook up Julie and Patrick? It's a match made in heaven right there.
You combine those two, they don't even equal an IQ of 20. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Numchuck, who do we go to next year? My head is spinning. Roy? Let's go to Roy. You want to go to Dean first? Then we'll go to Roy. Dean, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's happening?
What's up?
Hey, I have the same problem as you having, and I just realized you can't say anything to a MAGA. They don't want to listen. They don't pay attention to facts. It's just their feelings, and it gets crazy. I deal with my sister all the time, and she won't listen. She wants you to pay attention to her and Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and all these idiots on Fox, but then she won't check out some other resources, other news outlets. It's crazy.
It sounds like your sister is brainwashed, unfortunately. I really want to help your sister out. You think there's a way where we can block Newsmax and Fox News and OAN? I don't know. Do you think there's a way that you can get the cable guy and you could maybe give him a tip and maybe get her to stop watching some of those networks? I don't know what else we can do.
It's crazy. I don't know how that these guys can go all this disinformation like they do and get away with it. Yeah. But, I was listening to you talking to these people, and they come out and they get pissed off because they know that you're telling them the truth. They don't want to accept it, even though they have accepted it in their mind, but they want to throw something else at you. And it's crazy. I wish they'd just stop and think what you're saying. Make some sense of, you make it sense on what they're saying is wrong, and you make it sense that what you're saying is right, and they still, they're in a cult, and they don't want to, and they get mad. It's stupid.
They are in a cult. They get mad. They can't come up with facts. You have a moron, a complete freaking idiot who calls into this show and calls Joe Biden Genocide Joe. The same freaking morons who use terms
like Joe Biden.
Alzheimer's.
Joe Biden's not the president of Israel. He's the president of the United States.
Let's be clear. Most of these people that call into this show, unfortunately, like Patrick, who makes statements like that, are very stupid people. They're very dumb, uneducated people. That is Donald Trump's base. He loves the uneducated.
Yeah, he said he loves uneducated people.
Yeah, so a dumb MAGA moron will call into this show, and he doesn't even really know what he's saying. He somehow blames Joe Biden for hundreds of thousands of innocent people dying, even though he wasn't even specific on who exactly he was talking about. But that's the same guy who will praise Vladimir Putin, who has no problem for praising Vladimir Putin and probably wants Russia to win the war in the Ukraine. So I can't reason with these people. They're so stupid. They're so uneducated. They're such dopes. And I give Donald Trump credit for this. He exposed how so stupid some of these people are in this country. They're so dumb.
Exactly. Hey, I got one quick question for you. I had gotten to watch the Dr. Phil. He was on The View.
Right.
And I didn't understand where he was going with it.
Yeah.
And it was a short one because it looked like Whoopi was about to jump in his butt.
Yeah.
But
did you listen? I don't know. I don't know if you listened to the first segment I did. I talked about those comments. And wait a second. Do we have Dr. Phil? Well, I think I have a treat for you. I think we might have Dr. Phil on the line with us right now. Dr. Phil, is that you, Dr. Phil? Are you there?
Really? You get help, you narcissistic bitch.
Oh, well, Dr. Phil's in a really bad mood today. I'm sorry about that. Sorry for
really?
that. Sorry about that vulgarity. But Dr. Phil, unfortunately, Dr. Phil is not a doctor any longer. He was a psychologist, practiced back in 2006. He's not an infectious disease expert. And he's a dope. And
Exactly.
he doesn't understand why the reason why these schools were closed were not just because kids' safety. It was so they didn't bring the virus back home to their parents and grandparents. But
yes, exactly.
yeah, and Dr. Phil's too dumb to know that. And, I'm disappointed in those on The View that didn't call it, because I would have called him out right to his face. I would have said, number one, you're not an infectious disease doctor. I don't get my information from psychologists who hadn't practiced in 25 years, and you have no idea what you're talking about. Dr. Phil is a moron, and he shouldn't be trusted. And as I said, I would use his new book as toilet paper, because that's what I think about him, and that's what I think about his new book.
There you go.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate the call. All right. Sorry, Dr. Phil. I just like to call it like it is.
You get help, you narcissistic bitch.
He must be talking about Donald Trump. Dr. Phil, you shouldn't be mean like that. I mean, Donald Trump, he's not narcissistic. Don't talk like that. Let's go to Roy. Roy is next on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Roy?
Hey, Brian. I think one thing that was proven today and has been proven before, the country needs to spend a lot more money on education.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the amount of stupidity out there is mind-boggling.
I agree.
I think it was a miracle that only one person was killed. Only Ashley Babbitt was killed on January 6th, and not more. I think that in itself was a miracle.
You're right. Those people are lucky that they weren't shot also. But, I look at Ashley Babbitt's mom, who's been arrested for assault and battery, and I look at the people out there at CPAC that look up to the Ashley Babbitts of the world. Why is it you think that the Republican Party, if you go to the Republican National Convention, you see some of these people like the McCloskeys speaking. You see like a Kyle Rittenhouse, who's looked up to as some sort of hero by those on the far right. And then you look at Ashley Babbitt as a martyr. They get so angry when somebody looks like George Floyd is a martyr, right? Who, by the way, was murdered. It was proven in a court of law. George Floyd was murdered. Ashley Babbitt was not murdered. That was also proven in the investigation. But they want to look at Ashley Babbitt as a hero. I find that very interesting.
I find it mind-boggling. And I got to tell you, I think what's really going to come down, I think that this trial for January 6th has to happen. I want to see the Supreme Court get off their ass and deny this claim that the president has total immunity. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important, because if they can have this trial in a reasonable amount of time, I think there's a better chance of Trump going to the big house than the White House. And that's where he really does deserve to go. This man as president is absolutely dangerous to the world.
He is. I don't disagree with you one bit.
What amazes me, they talk about his financial business acumen. He inherited $500 million from his father 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
If you just do the math, if you took $500 million if you just invested in mutual funds and earned 7% a year, after 50 years, you would have about $16 billion, just so you know.
Yeah, that makes...
He's not a good businessman.
No, he's not.
Not at all.
Why is it that these...
I wish someone would give me $500,000
$500
50
million.
years ago.
$500 million.
$500 million.
Yeah.
And I would... You don't even have to do anything. Just put it into mutual funds and forget about it.
Yeah, there's all of his businesses that filed for bankruptcy, the thousands of lawsuits that have been put forth. Donald Trump is not a good businessman, no more than Mike Lindell. They're snake oil salesmen and they're frauds. And you'll never hear me defend the business practices of Donald Trump at all. Roy, you're 100% right, my friend. I appreciate your phone call. You have a great rest of your Wednesday, okay?
You too, Brian.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
All right, so I've gone way too late here. We got to take a break, and then we'll take some more phone calls on the other side. And by the way, that number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. I see a lot of social media comments, which I'm going to be getting to when we come back, and we'll be getting more of your calls. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about Ashley Babbitt trending again on social media. Her mother is making the rounds. They're making her out to be some sort of martyr and hero when she was a domestic terrorist. Let's just call it for like it is. Donald Trump unable to post full bond. I thought he was a billionaire. We'll talk a little bit about that. And oh yeah, coming back, white trailer trash herself, Lauren Boebert. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Well, just hours after she starts talking about the Biden crime family, her son is arrested on 22 charges. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. We're going to talk about that when we come back. I also want to remind all of you, I do overtime at the end of the show at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Kind of like Bill Maher overtime. It's my version of it. You have to subscribe to my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. If you subscribe to my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show, I have personal interaction with all of you just for my YouTube subscribers. So at PTL Radio Show, where you can do that. Please subscribe to the Occupy Democrats page as well. It's only $5 a month. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll talk about Lauren Boebert when we come back. If she's not performing a sexual act in public to a man on a first date, her son is in trouble with the law. 22 charges he's facing. We'll talk about that when we come back. 702-221-7283. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
I'm Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16. Former Lieutenant Governor candidate, Progressive Independent Democrat, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, fully transitioned transgender woman. I support women's rights and veterans and unions and other progressive ideas. Please donate to my campaign on Spot Fund and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. Stay progressive, everybody.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well. So I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Gwynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Trump won and you know it. Trump won and you know it.
Trying to stop the steal. Trump 2024 red pill. We know they stole the E. 81 million votes, boy, please. Yeah,
I love it. All these opportunists are trying to make money off of these dumb Trumpers. These Trump One and You Know It songs that they play nonstop in their car and pleasure themselves to their Donald Trump posters in their bedroom. Except maybe Melania Trump. Harvesting ballots. Anyway, welcome back to the show. It's Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're just joining us, you've missed a lot. We've been talking about Dr. Phil's idiotic, stupid medical misinformation comments he made on The View. And we've also been talking about Ashley Babbitt. She's the woman who was shot and justified in being shot and killed on the January 6th insurrection day, where she's a domestic terrorist and she broke the law, and you reap what you sow. I'm sorry. I'm not happy about what happened to her, but she did it to herself. We've been talking about that. And, it's interesting because Lauren Boebert will attack Joe Biden every chance she gets. She is trailer trash, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just call Lauren Boebert who she is. She is an uneducated, trailer trash, despicable human being, and an embarrassment to the white race, quite frankly. An embarrassment to just this country, period. So she had just gone on social media and attacked the Joe Biden crime family again. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden is answering questions under oath, and there's no correlation between Hunter or Joe Biden committing any crime. So, anyway, that's here nor there. But while that's going on, Lauren Boebert went on social media attacking the Biden family as the crime family, literally. I'm not making this up. Less than 2 hours after her tweet, her son was arrested on 22 charges. Yes, that's right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. 18-year-old Tyler J. Boebert is now facing 4 felony counts of criminal possession, 1 felony count of conspiracy to commit a felony, and over 15 additional misdemeanor and offenses. Law enforcement said this is an ongoing investigation. All suspects are considered innocent until adjudicated guilty in a court of law, of course. All this is going on when members of our own family are facing some serious felony counts. I find that interesting. It's the Biden crime family, according to Lauren Boebert, yet Donald Trump, Orange Cheeto Jesus, is facing 91 felony counts. I do find that very, very interesting. Number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Damon, who is next up on Pushing the Limits. What's going on, Damon?
Hey, what's up, Brian? Whoever that was that suggested that you should hook up Patrick and Julie, let him know I'm first in line for Julie.
Okay, fair enough.
No, you're not a good fit.
Good luck with that. Yeah, good luck.
No, see, I'm what she needs. I'm a man that's going to lie to her all day. I'm exactly what she needs.
Yeah,
Seriously.
well, apparently she'll believe you because she believes everything out of Donald Trump's mouth.
She believes everything.
Yeah.
I've been telling you for 3 years I'm looking for one of these Republican women that believe anything that she perfectly means.
Hey, wait. If that's the case, hey, Julie, my penis is 16 inches. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Damon. I digress. Go ahead.
Only thing I got to say about Ashley Babbitt, Dr. Phil don't even deserve discussion. Ashley Babbitt, whatever happened to just comply? Just do what the officers say. The same thing they tell us every time somebody gets killed by a police officer.
I was just going to say that. When a black man, in some cases, is innocent and he's shot and killed, you'll hear Republicans on the far right, usually middle-aged white Republicans, tell black people just comply and it would have never happened. And listen, in some cases, I will agree with them, even though, in some cases I will agree. But don't you find it interesting that when it comes to Ashley Babbitt, you're so right. It's not comply. She was going through a window, but you know what? The window was already partially broken. We heard that excuse today. She punched another guy because he was being too aggressive. So somehow that, should show that she was a wonderful person. The excuses that they make on Ashley Babbitt, and not even excuses, they look at her as a martyr or a hero. And these are the same people that say, George Floyd is no martyr, but yet Ashley Babbitt is. When George Floyd was proven in a court of law, he was murdered, and it was never proven that Ashley Babbitt was murdered. I find that very interesting, Damon.
Yeah, it is very interesting how it always flips when it's their people involved.
Right.
It lets you know that they don't care about right or wrong. They just care about their people doing what they want to do. We can do what we want to do. You just deal with it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. But I'm so happy about that Lauren Boebert. Thanks for sharing that. That makes me so happy.
I am not making this up. Literally, a few hours after Boebert was attacking the Biden family for being the crime family, her own son has been charged with 22 counts, some of them felonies. You cannot make this stuff up.
And you know what's funny about Lauren Boebert? Her and Marjorie Taylor Greene, right after they got reelected, both of them filed for divorce. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I do find that interesting as well. But, Boebert has really good taste in men because her ex-husband exposed his genitalia to a bunch of kids at a bowling alley.
They the family values party.
Yeah, she's the one that'll say all Democrats are pedophiles. Meanwhile, she married one. What does that say about her?
Yeah. Exactly. The hypocrisy. But, oh well.
She will perform a sexual act on a man, a Democrat, by the way, in a public theater with children around.
Julia do the same thing. Julia do the same thing.
Yeah. Jeez, I wish my first girlfriend in high school did that to me. But anyway, that's another story for another show.
Republican woman, where is that? Where is that, boy?
Apparently. Damon, I appreciate the phone call, my friend. Thank you very much, as always. I appreciate your call. Thank you. Good to hear from you. Thank you. 702 221-7283, the Biden crime family. Yeah, okay. Okay, we'll see how that works out. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Rod. Rod is next up on Pushing the Limits. What's going on, Rod?
Yeah, I was going to say something earlier about the January 6th thing, but it seems like so many people have already kind of covered that. But I will say something real quick about the COVID vaccine. It's just amazing, and I just wonder if you find it interesting that they want to put that blame on Fauci and Biden about the mandate and things of that nature, but they fail to mention the fact that if we wouldn't even have the vaccine had it not been for Trump and his warp speed program.
Yeah.
That he's the one that brought that out. And he even said that he took the vaccine, and so did Mitch McConnell.
Right.
So I thought that was really kind of strange that they could demonize Democrats and make it seem like it was some type of conspiracy on the side on the part of the left when the vaccine actually came from the right.
You're absolutely right. They want to have their cake and eat it too. By the way, I was one of those people that praised Donald Trump. I was glad that Operation Warp Speed was put out there. But you know what Donald Trump did? Because his people that support him, so many of them are so stupid. They're against the vaccine, so many of them. So what did Donald Trump do? Like the coward that he is, and him and his bone spurs, he and Melania Trump did it privately. There was a commercial.
Right.
Every former president that's still alive, including George W. Bush, I give him credit, they did a commercial, if you remember, telling people to get the vaccines. It was Jimmy Carter, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, because if you have some decency inside of you, and listen, I didn't like George W. Bush as president, but I do think his wife and members of his family have class. I really do. And they did that commercial. The one person that decided not to do it, Donald Trump. Why? Because the idiots in the base of his party are anti-vaccine, and he cares more about votes than he cares about doing the right thing and saving lives.
Exactly.
It's mesmerizing to me. It drives me nuts. I talk about it every day. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's definitely cult. It's definitely cult behavior, and it's frightening because I haven't seen anything like it since Jim Jones.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you call some of these people cultists, they say they're not in a cult, and I look at them and I say, when was the last time you saw a malarkey flag on the back of a pickup truck? When was the last time you saw that sort of paraphernalia sold, like the Trump stuff? These people down south, they'll have their Confederate flag and right next to it their MAGA flag. I haven't seen one Biden supporter, a Biden flag, and then a Confederate flag or anything even close to that.
Exactly.
Because it is a cult. It is a cult. And, this is their messiah. This is their leader. They're nuts. They buy these frickin' gold sneakers that are the cheapest sneakers I've ever heard of in my life. They complain about their eggs being $1 too much, but yet they have no problem forking over. I don't know. They have no problem forking over $400 for these stupid cheap sneakers. It's like they come home from their Klan rally and maybe they get like these grand wizards. Maybe they collect money in their Klan jar and then they say, Hey, honey, I think I got enough money from my Klan rally. Now we can buy those sneakers. We can buy, but honey, you can buy them at the store for $19. I don't care. I want those sneakers with that T on it. I want those sneakers with that T on it. Okay, honey, go ahead and buy it, but we're not going to have enough money for our daughter to get education. Oh, she wasn't smart enough to get an education anyway. Well, he might be right about that, but anyway, that's what these people do. It's sick.
Yeah.
They're sick people. They're mentally ill. Have you ever seen a more disgusting, ugly set of sneakers, too, by the way? And by the way,
no.
So when somebody says, I don't know what your nationality is, sir, but when somebody says on Fox News that Trump is reaching to black people because black people love sneakers, what goes through your mind when you hear somebody say that?
A typical stereotype racist comment.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all it is.
I agree.
That's basically what it is. And it amazes me that there are younger black people who fall for that because I would expect younger people to be sharper than
I think they are, though. And, unless you're an idiot like Tim Scott or Byron Donalds, what moron who happens to be black, and I don't believe they're doing this, by the way, would actually say, hey, you know what? I really like those $400 sneakers I could get for $19 at Walmart. I'm going to vote for that orange man. I know a lot of black people, and not one of them that I know would do that. So I don't think it's going to work.
No, I don't think so. But he'll get some. But anyway, the only other thing I was going to say when I was going to bring up the January 6th is that I've always believed from the beginning that it was an extortion tactic. I never believed for 1 minute that Trump thought. I know the rioters believed it because they were dumb enough to believe it. They were dumb enough to do it. But I never believed for 1 minute that Trump really thought that he could turn the election over, because America has never surrendered to terrorists, foreign or domestic.
Right.
So I think it was basically just like Al Capone and the mafia of yesteryear, where they intimidate people to the point by using extortion tactics, so that when he knew his cases were coming up, his plan was to intimidate people so that no one would prosecute him and no one would testify against it.
He's an orange
just
mobster.
Like they wouldn't against him.
He's an orange mobster is what Donald Trump is. Well, let me tell you something. He can try to continue to intimidate people and go after women on looks and go after Nikki Haley's husband for serving and call them suckers and losers. He can continue to go after anybody and everybody, but let me tell you something. There's too many intelligent people like yourself in this country that are not going to go to the poll. They're not going to go and vote, and they're not going to vote for Orange Man. There's too many people in this country, and even though many of those people don't want to see Joe Biden for another 4 years, they'll still pick Joe Biden over Donald Trump, and I am one of them, and I know you are one of them, and because of that, Donald Trump will not win in November, and we cannot let him win, and he's not going to win. And he's not going to win. Let me tell you, my friend, and I appreciate your phone call, and thank you so much for calling in. Those sneakers are on the way, okay? All right. You have a good one, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's only $400. Costs like 50 cents to make those sneakers in China. They sell them at the dollar store, I think, in this country. But, hey, if you put a T on those sneakers, those Klansmen will be buying them in a heartbeat. By the way, speaking of Klansmen, I have a very funny story to tell. I'm going to try to get this guy on the show. He's called The Douchebag on YouTube. Very funny account. He shows up at CPAC, this guy, and he clowns MAGA supporters, right? He shows up at CPAC, and then he goes into the bathroom, and he puts on a Klan outfit. And then he walks out in the Klan outfit. Trump, 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 Trump. It's one of the funniest videos I've seen in a very long time. Now, I would imagine there's definitely a percentage of people that were at CPAC that probably have worn that outfit before, not as a joke, but as an actual outfit. So I would imagine some of those people probably were in support of him doing so, but it is so funny. It is so hilarious, clowning. Like, he'll go to these Trump rallies, and he'll dress up like in a Klan outfit. It's so hilarious. Sad at the same time, but also very, very funny, clowning these MAGA morons. It's hilarious. 702-221-7283. All right, let's go to Gary. Gary's next up on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Gary?
How are you today, Brian?
I'm doing quite all right, sir. What's going on, Gary? What's on your mind?
I just want to say, all these subjects and stuff, there's only one subject to talk about, the budget. We've got to pass the budget. And I don't understand. I think there's a lot of dopes on both sides of the aisle. I mean, this is the dumbest political opinion I can think of. What's wrong with the Democratic side? Just give in and spend enough money for 900 miles of solid wall, whether it's the right thing or wrong thing. Make, I don't know, at least 50% of the people in this country, including a lot of independents and Democrats, happy. I mean, I disagree with you that expired visas are a bigger problem.
Well,
they need
solid hold on. Gary.
You
Gary, before I forget, let me stop you. The reason why I bring up overstayed visas because there's more people in this country that are undocumented that overstay their visas than people that cross the border illegally. But you won't hear anybody talk about that. You certainly won't hear Republicans talk about that.
They'll get around to it. They're just not as visible. It's not as visible.
Okay, what do you mean it's not as visible? There's more people in this country illegally that overstay their visas than cross the border. The wall is not going to fix that problem.
You don't see them, thousands of them, showing up at the airport, like at the border. And they're not overwhelming all these towns.
Gary, do you really think a border wall is the answer? You think that's what we need to do as a country, a border wall?
politically to pass his budget.
I didn't ask you
talk
politically.
about January 6th. January 6th is probably nothing what could happen this year in this election.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I don't give a damn politically. I'm asking you a question about the safe and security of this country. You really think a wall is going to solve all of our problems? You really believe that?
It'll put a lot of people to work.
All right, well, here's what I want to do. Okay, so let's go with that. Gary, here's what I want to do. I want to build a wall in the middle of this country, and here's what I want to do with that wall. If you have an IQ over 20, and I know many people that are MAGA supporters probably fall under that category, you can stay on that side of the wall. I don't want to be on that side of the wall. If you have an IQ over 20, and I would imagine most people that have an IQ over 20 are not those that defend Donald Trump every minute of every day, then you get to be on the other side of the wall. Do you think we could have that wall, Gary? Because I'd be okay with that wall.
We got a wall going on right here because you want to just be insulting. And by the way,
no, I'm just honest. I'm not insulting
Trump
you.
He wanted to go, and the Secret Service wouldn't let him go there in person, to show up in person. That's a fact.
Who cares if Donald Trump shows up at the wall? You think that's a photo op, Gary? Who
I'm
cares?
talking about January 6th.
What about
I'm talking about the day, January 6th. He wanted to go there, and the Secret Service said it was
Who
too
wanted to go there?
dangerous.
What are you talking about?
And you always repeat yourself.
What
that
are
he
you
didn't do
talking
nothing
about?
For 5 hours.
What do you mean he wanted to go there? He made a speech. What are you talking about?
After the speech, when he found out what was going on, he wanted the Secret Service to bring him there to tell everybody to calm down and go home.
That's not factually accurate. He claims that he wanted to go with the people that were there before they stormed the Capitol, and they said it wasn't safe for him to do so. For 4.5 hours, he didn't do anything. Now, Gary, if what you were saying was true, explain to me why for 4.5 hours, when everybody around him in the White House begged him to put out a statement to end the violence, he refused to do so.
I want to talk about the budget.
Why won't you answer that question? Why won't you answer that question? Why did Donald Trump do nothing?
You're diverting.
No,
the
I'm not.
subject
You
as
brought up.
usual.
No,
You're
I'm.
asking me all
No,
kinds
I'm
of
not.
ridiculous things.
Oh, you think it's ridiculous that I ask you why
I'm not
Donald?
a journalist.
You don't
I'm just
have
a
to be
person.
All right, Gary, you don't have to be a journalist to answer the
I don't
question.
have evidence.
You don't have to have evidence. It's an
We need
honest
a wall.
question.
We need to pass a
All
budget.
right, Gary, we're past that now. I appreciate your call, Gary. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. What's going on?
Hi, Brian. I have a couple of statements.
Sure.
Ashley Babbitt was guilty. Okay.
Sure.
You can't move into a building through a window. That's not normally how it's done. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's so many things I have going on in my mind. I'm forgetting half of them. But from the last caller you just had, I personally wish Trump would have shown up to the Capitol, because then we'd really have something to get on him.
Yeah.
Then we'd really be able to prove he incited the riot.
I think I agree. I think Jack Smith thought that it would be very difficult to prove. I think we all know why they stormed the Capitol. They were doing it because of Donald Trump. Right. But I think Jack Smith knows what he's doing, and I trust him. And he's prosecuting.
Yeah, I'm not dissing Jack Smith.
Yeah.
I was just saying if Donald Trump had shown up, then we'd really have something on.
Then he would already be in jail, in my personal opinion. But he might be going to jail anyway, and it's going to be. I don't think anybody's going to recognize him behind bars because he probably won't have access to his orange makeup. So I don't think any.
I've seen him without his orange makeup. It's not good.
It's scary. And it's interesting when you talk about people that are, you want to talk about a guy that would never be on the front of Fitness magazine. It would be Donald Trump. He's the guy that's morbidly obese. Yet he goes after Joe Biden. Yeah. Last I checked, Joe Biden is an 81-year-old man, is still able to get exercise and go on a bike. Could you imagine Donald Trump going on a bike? Give me a break.
Yeah, dude, I'm only 61 according to the former and the present president. I'm only 61 and I can't get on a bike. I can imagine Trump,
Oh God. Well, he'd use the excuse of bone spurs, that's probably what it is.
Yeah. Well, he's used that excuse before though, has he not?
Yeah, it's bone spurs. He blames everything on bone spurs. I'm sure he'll do that in a courtroom with these 91 felonies. I appreciate your call, Rebecca. Thank you so much. You make some very valid points and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. So we are going to be doing something called PTL Overtime. Okay? PTL Overtime. If you subscribe to my YouTube page, which is free, it's at PTL Radio Show. It's completely free. And if you subscribe to my YouTube page, we're going to do an extra 5 or 10 minutes of the show. We're kind of run down what we did, and then I'll give you a preview of what we're going to be doing on the show tomorrow. Tomorrow's guest, by the way, we are going to have Eva Chase in studio. She's running for office as a Democrat, a transgender woman. A lot of questions to get to her in regards to the bigotry and the hatred coming from the right side of the aisle when it comes to gay rights, LGBT community, transgender. It's ridiculous, the attacks on drag queen readings. So we'll definitely be talking to her about that. We're going to give you the latest on this Hunter Biden in Washington, D.C., under oath, being asked many questions from people like Matt Gaetz's of the world. So we'll talk to you a little bit about that as well. Boy, it's a crazy news cycle, folks, but we do our best to try to cover it the best way that we can. I appreciate all of you watching. We're on some newer platforms today. I'll talk probably a little bit more about that tomorrow. So we appreciate the audience, even a bigger audience than we've already had. The show is growing every day. Please also check out my website where you can sign up for the newsletter, ptlradio.com, ptlradio.com. If you have any guest suggestions or just any constructive criticism, anything in general, I'm not Donald Trump. I can take the constructive criticism. Find me at ptlradio.com. Shoot us an email. Contact us. Talk to us at PTL Radio Show on YouTube. And on Occupy Democrats, you can click that subscribe button. It's only $5 a month, and then you get to talk to me directly, really anytime you want. So it's a good deal, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me. So, and I'm not trying to sell you sneakers for $4,000. I'm not trying to do that. I promise you. Maybe in the future, just not right now. I have to become a billionaire first. A billionaire. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.